it with you until you come in line. But I'd like to assure you that as a child of God, you need to cast your care upon the Lord, for He is there to fight for you the battle. And it happens that on this 40th day, Jesse had sent his youngest son, David, to come and check on his brothers. And as David also was in this camp, he had gone to salute, to check on his brothers. And this time, when he was talking with his brothers, this man, Goliath, again comes up, and he spoke and defied the God of Israel. And David's spirit was stirred amidst him, that who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the living God? My dear friend, we serve a living God, the God who is above every other, who is so mighty in strength. But there are people who defy the living God with their words, with their actions, just like Goliath did. But David was so touched that his spirit was stirred within him and said, no, who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the living God? And David was not at rest until he said no. He asked the Israelites, what shall be done to a man that kills this Philistine? And they told him that Saul, or the king, would make him rich, make him great, make his family free, and even give him her own daughter. And David said, I'm going to fight with this man. Now, when David had made a decision to go and fight over this man, his brother tried to stop him, but he said, no. What have I now done? Is there not a cause? So he was touched about the safety of his brethren against the safety of his nation. So when David had said this, people first of all went and informed Saul, and Saul immediately called for David and asked him, you are a young boy, you are a youth, but he is a man of war. But what is so amazing is in verse 34, 35, and 36 of 1 Samuel 17, when David explains to Saul how God had been with him, even when he was taking care of the flocks of sheep. He says these words, and David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. My dear friend, when the Lord is with you, He will always fight for you battles. David had even battled with the lion, with the bear, and he had killed them. And was still sure that the living God, who had been defied by this uncircumcised Philistine, God was still going to deliver him into his hands, that his children may again acknowledge him as a mighty deliverer, as a strong foothold that they can truly lean on. My dear friend, we need to know that whatever is challenging us in our lives, those struggles that we are in, the Lord alone can make us successful. So, when David had spoken this, the king did really said, okay. And then the Philistine once again came and he said, please get for me a man that I may fight with him. And David said, I will go. The king had to dress him with his own armor, with all his helmet, with everything. But David walked for a short distance and came back and said, no, I'm not well trained in this. I cannot go with them. Get them out of me. For me, I will move on with them. Listen to these words in verse 41. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And the Philistine looked about and saw David. He disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cast David by his God. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. This was a statement that really disturbed David. And David said, Look at this man, who's cursing me, who's just taking me to be who I am. David was sure that he was not going to fight this giant, this Goliath, in his own strength. That's why David writes to us in the Psalm of 31 that, In thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. Let me never be ashamed. Deliver me in thy righteousness. Bow down thine ear to me. Deliver me speedily. Be thou my strong rock, for an house of defense to save me. Those were David's words. And in verse 3 says, For thou art my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for thy name's sake, lead me and guide me. These were David's words. He knew that he had a mighty fortress, a mighty rock that was going before him, the one who was his defense to deliver him even from this giant. Even when he was so small in stature, the Lord who was with him was so mighty, for he was with the living God. And David responded to this man. Then David said to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and will give the carcasses of the hosts of the Philistine this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. My dear friend, you need to know that you serve a living God. You need to know that the Lord is on your side. In everything that you are going through today, you need to tackle them in the strength of the Lord. There is only victory, my dear friend, in the strength of the Lord. David was fighting the giant, but not in his own strength, for the Lord was there by his side. Nothing could the stone that David used could have killed the Goliath. But because the Lord was with him, this sling that he used was powered with the mighty angels, with the mighty power of the living God, that he delivered the giant into this young man's hands, that he smote him with just a single stone. My dear friend, God is waiting for you to make him your refuge, to go to him as your mighty fortress, to make him fight for you the challenges that you are having. Those things that are still challenging you in your Christian walk today, you need to give them to the Lord, for he is waiting for you to cast them upon him. He is ready to give you the victory over the battles that you are going through today, over the addictions, over the lusts, if you make him your stronghold. My dear friend, it's time that we need to humble ourselves before the mighty hand of God. As we encounter the challenges in the world today, we cannot manage them on our own. But as we serve a living God, we need to go and tackle everything in his own strength. And I'd like to assure you of the victory. So long as you have your trust, you put your faith in him, he is going to give you the victory as long as you go to him in humility and you wait for him to fight for you those battles even without you interposing. That's why he tells us in the book of Psalms and the Psalm of 127 that it is in vain that if you build your own house, that if you do anything on your own and you think that you will prevail, you are deceiving yourself. That's why he tells us, or he reminds us, in the Psalm of 127, and he says, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. Just like the Israelites had been at the camp for 40 days, they thought that they could handle the Philistines, but they were challenged for 40 days. David came for one day because the Lord was with him, and the Lord was his strength. The Lord was his mighty rock. The Lord was his strength. The Lord was with him, and in moments he smote the Philistine that had challenged the Israelites for 40 days. My dear friend, what is it that is challenging you today? The Lord is waiting to give you the victory. The Lord is waiting to fight the battle for you. What are you waiting for? Make him your strength. Make him your shield, and he will fight for you. It was not the preparedness of the Philistines. It was not the preparedness or the unpreparedness of the Israelites' army that had made them to be challenged for 40 days. But it is because they had forgotten the source of their strength. It is because the one who was leading them, who had not submitted himself fully to the guidance of the Lord. All that was disturbing him was him thinking about how he had been rejected of the Lord as the king of Israel. And even when he went for battle, he was not with the Lord. But David was with the Lord in all that he did. He had made the Lord his mighty strength. And the Lord indeed was with David. And he delivered him from this Philistine and set his nation, Israel, free once again. The Philistines, when they saw that their giant had been smote, had been killed, they took off for themselves. And news spread over that the Philistines started to run, and now the army of Israel had to run after them and started to slay them, that many of them were killed that day. And David they took the sword, the knife of Goliath, and had to cut off the head, and had to roll it over, and moved with it to Jerusalem. My dear friend, the Lord is waiting to give you victory if you come to him in humility and humbleness. He will stand by your side. He will be there to fight for you. Don't hesitate to call upon him to give you his power that will help you to overcome each and everything. The amazing news today that just like David killed this giant, in the strength of the Lord, you too can overcome your addiction. You too can overcome that lust. You too can have self-control. You too can overcome that hatred that is within you. You yourself can overcome that which is challenging you even today. Are you battling with anything in life? You cannot handle it by yourself. But in the strength of the Lord, my dear friend, you can overcome it. How I appeal to you, that you will make the Lord, the mighty God of Israel, your God today. That you will give him chance to fight for you your battles, and you will witness. You will give a testimony because of what the Lord will do for you. My dear friend, shall we give ourselves fully to God, that he may fight for us, he may stand in to battle it all for us? It's now that we need to surrender. For what is coming ahead, you cannot handle it on your own. But in the strength of the Lord, we can overcome it. How I pray that you will make the Lord your strength. He is waiting to give you the victory, and you can only get the victory only in his strength. Make the Lord your stronghold in the time of trouble. Call upon him, and he will deliver you, for he cares for you. He says that we need to cast all our cares upon him, for he cares for us. He is watching us every other day, and nothing passes by him without him noticing. My dear friend, it is time that you need to make the Lord your strength. Shall we pray? Loving Father in heaven, we thank you for you are so mighty. You are so loving, and you are ready to fight for us our battles. Just like you led David to fight against the Philistine. We also have challenges in life, Father. Some of us have addictions. Some